What is the difference in performance between a crop sensor with a focal reducer or a speed booster versus a genuine full frame camera? In this case, the M6 Mark II with a Viltrox focal reducer and the Sony a7C. Hey guys, welcome. If this is your first time here, my name is Belal Khan, a marketer by profession, media by passion, and this channel is all about helping you make your ideas real using digital media. Today's video, this is not a noise comparison in terms of how much artifacts and grain is in the image. I've already done that, comparing the crop mode, Super 35 mode of the A7C to the M6 Mark II. I'll link it up in here somewhere. The thing that I want to know is, would having a full frame in terms of its look, because what I typically do when I'm shooting with this, I want the maximum amount of light. What I will do is I will attach the focal reducer. I'll use the Sigma 1835 at f1.8 wide open, and I will crank up that ISO to 3200 to 6400, sometimes 12,800. And then on top of that, what I'll do is I'll give it a noise reduction pass to make it look clean and, and smooth without a lot of the digital noise. Now, keep in mind, when you apply noise reduction to footage that's shot from the M6 Mark II, it exponentially increases the render time in Adobe Premiere, even if you have a decently fast computer. So the real question that I have is, if I were to apply the same methodology of usage in regards to the settings that I'm recording in, but with a full frame setting, and I'm willing to crank up that ISO to the same level of 3200, 6400, 12,800, maybe even 25,600, without applying noise reduction, because rendering a video shot on a full frame camera at similar data rate, maybe a little bit more, without noise reduction is going to be significantly faster to render than inferior footage that is then noise reduced through Neat Video or something like that. When you know the difference in performance between these two cameras on that level, especially the effect and impact that it has on render time, you're then able to answer the question of whether or not is there more value in paying more for a full frame camera. And for context, as of this recording, you could probably get this camera, the M6 Mark II. It goes for about, brand new, goes for about $800. You could probably find something used for $700. Add a speed booster or a focal reducer to that, that might be another $100, $150. So it really comes down to just shy of $1,000. Throw taxes on that, it's about $1,000 setup if you're paying full price. Here, this camera right here, body alone, is gonna end up costing you about $1,800 at a $250 or $140, depending on what price you get if you buy it used. This is the MC11. It ends up being close to about $2,000, right? So is paying double the price worth it, especially in the case of the value that you get in time saving and image quality in a situation of low light? So that's what this whole video is about, whether or not there's value in that difference in cameras. So let's get started. Welcome to the ultimate low light setting comparison test. So here we are indoors in a dimly lit environment. So keep in mind, the way this whole thing is displayed is that I am going to be there's noise reduction being applied here. However, on the Sony, I'm not going to do any noise reduction. I want to see the comparison, because one of the values of getting a full frame with better low light capability is the fact that I would be able to not have to spend the additional time, or rather I wouldn't have to sit around or wait for the computer for the additional time to do the rendering. So right now, the way I'm being lit is I've got this moon lamp around me. This is basically, we got corner lighting, corner lamps, and this is essentially the way the environment looks right now. So if I were to kind of sit down and do some recording, whether it's an indoor setting or outdoor setting, this is what it would look like. at 12,800, and this is pretty much as high as I would be willing to go on this camera. Now the challenge here is if this is 1/25, there's going to be some serious motion blur happening right now. So, but yeah, this is as high as I would be willing to go in regards to lighting. Keep in mind, this is low light, not no light. And so what would be then the comparison if we take the same lens and we throw it on the Sony a7C at the same ISO setting, 12,800, starting at 1/60. And here we are at 12,800, profile is 1/60. I believe we are in full frame mode. Yes, we are. So what happens if we bring the shutter speed down a little bit? So let's see, we take this is f2.0, shutter speed would be this right here. We got 1/40, 1/30, right? 1/25. And now we're going to be dealing with some serious motion blur. But instead, right, let's say we want to keep it at 1/50, right? Which is supposed to be the best sort of, what do you call it? The best sort of shutter speed, especially in this kind of scenario. And then let's have the confidence to crank up that ISO, and we crank it up to 25,600. This is what it looks like. Let's take a walk around. Keep in mind there's no gyro stabilization being applied here because I'm in full frame mode, and gyro stabilization tends to be disabled in this setting. So right now we're back to the moon lamp. This is what it looked like on the Canon with the moon lamp. This is what it looks like on the Sony with the moon lamp. Again, on the Sony, I am not applying any sort of noise reduction whatsoever. This is raw out of camera. And because we've got colors and stuff here, one of the things I'd like to do is, and because we've got, you know, different lighting settings, we've got some dark stuff, we got some light stuff over here. ISO's cranked up really high. Everything I'm looking at here, the picture, there's a question of how is it different? What's and what is the value in that difference? I think the real value will be understood, maybe not at f1.8, but maybe if we cut the light gathering ability by more than 3 times by jumping down to f2.8 onto an ultra wide angle lens. So let's check this out. So here we are back on the Canon EOS M6 Mark II, but this time we're on the 11-16 Tokina, and I am maxing this camera out in terms of what I can do in low light. So it's definitely a lot of noise, which I have taken the opportunity to do noise reduction on. But the right now I'm shot over 1/25 at f2.8 with the focal reducer bringing down to f2 at the maximum extended ISO of 25,600. And yeah, some of the light areas might seem a little bit blown out, but if I pull that back, again, everything's going to be graded. Would you say that this image is acceptable if you were shooting something like this and it looked like this, right? Obviously noise reduction done, color grading is done, try to make it look as best as possible, got no picture profiles, and I'm maxing out the image. I need the light, so I'm going to have to accept the motion blur, right? There's no getting around it. It's going to be really, really noisy, but in terms of how the things are lit and how bright things are, this is the thing that I like. This is how it should be looking. But if we bring it over to the A7C, which is right here on the table, let's go ahead and swap out the lenses. And now picture profile's off, 25,600, shutter 1/25, and this is where we're at. Now, this is where I'd be with the Canon, but I know this is just the beginning in regards to how low I can go. But again, it's a question of the quality of the image. This image right here, ISO 25,600 on f2.8, 1/25, in comparison to this. Same settings, 1/25. This is at f2 because of Speedbooster, 25,600. How's the quality? Is the quality on the Sony, or rather is this quality half that or more? So I'll leave my comments after going through this footage in the edit, and then you can also kind of chime in the comments below. Let me know what your thoughts are. I'll see you in the edit. Welcome to the edit. I just wanted to showcase one of the key differences in two situations that I would be using this camera in a low light setting, okay? And how the performance is different. And I was actually really surprised. So let's go ahead and play back the sequence. So we have here the Canon video at 6400 ISO. And it looks pretty clean, right? So we go ahead and look at how would this have looked without having done any noise reduction. And this is the result. This is without noise reduction. This is with noise reduction, and it looks very clean. And I've done this on numerous occasions where I've got the noise and I just go ahead and clean that up. But how does that compare to, say, something like a Sony? Well, this is what the Sony looks like, right? In terms of clarity of image, no noise reduction done whatsoever. It would be significantly faster to render this image out versus this image right here, which is the Canon EOS M6 Mark II, again with noise reduction. Sony without noise reduction, Canon with noise reduction. And just for comparison's sake, what I'm going to do is just show you what this would look like without noise reduction compared to the Sony. So again, Sony without noise reduction, Canon without noise reduction. Sony without noise reduction, Canon without noise reduction. Again, throw the noise reduction on there versus Sony without noise reduction, right? Canon, Sony, Canon, Canon with noise, Sony with noise. Obviously here, that's where the performance difference is, but you apply the noise reduction and it looks it's competitive. The question though, is the time saving worth it? Here's another example. This is the indoor setting, that sequence that I showcased before where I'm walking around between my dining area and the living room. So if we play back, this is the Canon with noise reduction, and this is the Sony without noise reduction. Canon, again, noise reduction, Sony without noise reduction. Now we're in the kind of the same setting, Canon versus Sony, Canon versus Sony. Now, what if we showcase the Canon with and without noise reduction? This is the Canon with noise reduction, and this is the Canon without noise reduction. With noise reduction, without noise reduction. And this is ISO 25600, right? I'm surprised. I never usually ever shoot at this level. But again, 25600. This is the Sony, significantly cleaner, no noise reduction. Canon without noise reduction, Canon with noise reduction compared to Sony without noise reduction. It's like if I apply noise reduction on the Canon, then I feel like it's very close to what the Sony is able to do native. However, keep in mind, the best that the Canon can do, Sony at its base. I could push the ISO higher. I could even apply a little bit noise reduction to remove some of those artifacts, but I'm not going to do that because the whole purpose here is to save time. And in fact, it looks pretty good. So this is the difference. It's a question of, is it worth it in terms of the value saving or in terms of the value attained, just the saving in time that you get from not having to do any noise reduction and allowing me to maintain that picture quality and image quality while using the lenses that I still have, and keep in mind, I can only go up from here. Right? It gives me flexibility to also use slower lenses too. I can use an f4 lens on the Sony and push that ISO to 25600 in a low light setting, and I probably would not have any issues even if I go like in a situation like the car. Yeah, this is the car footage right here. This is ISO 3200 or maybe 6400 without any noise reduction on an f 1.8 lens. If I bump it down to say a f4 lens and bump up the ISO to 12,800, I wouldn't really have any qualms or issues, right? Compared to this on the Canon, right? I would have to apply noise reduction, but this is at 1.8. At f1, at f4, at 12,000, whatever, the number is, I just wouldn't be able to achieve it. And this is the flexibility and the options that the camera allows. If you're trying to shoot low light, you're going to end up spending a lot more money on a crop sensor camera to get those faster lenses where you can get away with a lot of what you want to do using the full frame camera, especially in the low light setting, especially in a situation where you don't have a lot of control and whatnot. So these are my thoughts. Is it worth double the price to pay once and still have the affordability across lenses where you're not going to use that many fast lenses? Yeah, I think it is. And not only is this flexibility available in full frame mode, I could probably go down to Super 35 crop mode and I still have all that. So these are my thoughts on the difference in the Canon EOS M6 Mark II and the full frame Sony a7C in terms of the value. What is the value in that difference? Is it worth double the price? Is it worth the time saving? Absolutely.